What's up, Erik? Look what we're doing.
I mean, here we are.
Another show, baby.
True.
Good to see you again.
Lots going on. Good to see you too, buddy.
Yeah, baby. Let's just let these guys do their thing, and it's done. Welcome, Section 128. This is Los Angeles, an LAFC podcast. I'm Celso Oliveira, your host, alongside my co-host, Erik Holstrom. Great to see you once again. 2 shows in 1 week. That's not something we do, but we may not have a show next week, depending on how things go. So this is a good opportunity to talk a couple of things. Erik, I usually talk a lot. I know I do, but I'm going to go straight to you, buddy, because this show is all about Jailson, the new Brazilian player that LAFC has just picked up. And everyone might be saying, hey, Celso, you're Brazilian. You should know this guy. But no, Erik, who is a massive Palmeiras fan, is here to give us some insight on this guy, who he is, what he saw from him when he was watching him at Palmeiras. I know he moved around a lot, but you are a connoisseur of Brazilian football, and I wanted to bring you here to talk a little bit about Jailson and what this signing means for LAFC, bud.
Yeah. No, I'm seeing a Porco show up on LAFC always makes me a little happy, regardless of how they did, and Jailson's time at Palmeiras was kind of in their heyday, like the 22-23 season when they were basically winning everything they were in. He wasn't a prominent guy on the team. I mean, that's even when you still had, I believe, Felipe Melo was still there. You have Zé Rafael. Rafael Vega was in his some of his best seasons he's had. And Danilo was still there. I don't believe he had moved to Forest yet. That happened the year after. So we have Gustavo Scarpa. I mean, it's really just a legendary team. And Jailson, he was not a prominent fixture in the team, but he was a rotational piece and got a lot of minutes. So if you're going to look at it, and sorry, Celso, as a tricolor fan, I mean, we're talking about a Palmeiras team that is one of the best South American teams probably of the century so far. So to even be a depth piece or a rotational player on that squad, you have to be good. And so I'm excited that he's here. I do think, with all the criticism on Dolobal, which, I have plenty of it, you need to go back to, 2 days ago's episode to hear me go off on it. But as far as Dolobal is concerned, Jailson should be a guy that fits pretty well into it. We're looking – he's replacing Igor Jesus, who has really a fantastic season so far. With Jailson, he's probably a little more physical of a player. He did spend some time after leaving Palmeiras going to center back, but with Palmeiras, he tended to play a little more as a 6. Sometimes they put him in at an 8 position. And Palmeiras is a team much like, at that time, they were going more of a 4-3-3. Vega wasn't so much of a 10. They kind of went to the 10 the last couple seasons, playing a 4-2-3-1. But while he was there, they were pretty much playing a 4-3-3 with a 6 and 2 8s, basically. I mean, very similar setup, very counter-attacking heavy. So how he played on that squad should suit us pretty well.
Quick question about that, because the video that we saw of LAFC really kind of featured him offensively, which one of the first things I said is like, don't expect this guy to be the one passing the ball to Sonny and setting him up. But what do you have to say about him being a two-way player? Is this guy just a true 6 that is there to just really do the defensive work?
He's going to be a 6 to do the defensive work, and I think he has been put into an 8 position as well at times. He might go a little forward, but I think for our purposes, like we need a 1-to-1 sub of Igor Jesus. I saw the LAFC video. There's also another video from an account called Futebol Productions with Jailson's 2022 Palmeiras highlights. And I think that's much more of what you're going to see. And the highlights are a lot of tackles, a lot of defensive work. A couple he puts in, and this is from his Fenerbahce time, he did put in a really nice 40-yard cannon, like long shot. Although, the goalie was quite out of position, but still it was a good shot. It was like an outside foot curler, like into the upper corner, drifting away from the goalie. So that's pretty nice. But I think this guy is going to be in here doing defensive work, and that's really, I think, what we want him to do.
Of
His
course.
passing, I don't think, is quite as clean as Igor Jesus. His, his taking on two pressers and outletting the ball isn't going to be quite as good as Igor Jesus either. But he's a little more physical of a guy, so I think this might help us out in some ways. But
You will.
the way Dolo needs to deploy him basically is defensively and then making very good high percentage passes to another player to make something happen with the ball.
So he was last at Celta de Vigo, which is the first division in Spanish, Liga. It's not a easy league. However, he was injured and he had a history of injuries at Celta, which led for him losing some space there and eventually being released. Any concerns outside of what we know from the media about his health, right? This guy is coming to replace someone who's injured. Do you feel like he's going to be up for a physical league like MLS? He hasn't been playing. That's my concern. Here we have 8 games left, man.
Yeah, and the last player we had with questionable injury history was Marlon. This should be a different scenario, I think. But at the end of the day, beggars can't be choosers on this one. And losing Igor Jesus when we did right at the end of the transfer window, there's our only option right now are players who are free agents and out of contract and sitting on their couches right now without a team. So it really limits who you can get, especially as the European season just started. So, this guy wasn't deemed suitable for any team over there. Another concern, obviously, is there's more leagues over in Europe than just that. And I believe Celta was the second division. I'm not sure if they're first division.
Again, I never know, at the time that they were there, if they were, relegated or not. But I believe it was La Liga, so that would indicate that he did register 27 games with La Liga, and I believe that's first division for sure, buddy. But he bounced around. Palmeiras was probably his heyday. It was at some point worth 4.5 mil, according to Transfer Market. And right now he's kind of valued as a $1 million player. Again, for a veteran with experience, it seems like it can be a good fit. But last question on this.
Oh yeah,
before we really
they were first division. That's my mistake.
Yeah, no, they were, and again, he played several games in La Liga, 27 of them, 1,500 minutes. That's not nothing on his time there. So, He has played the most games in Brasileirão, which is not an easy league to play, and that will bring experience to this roster. Now,
over 2 seasons of Palmeiras, he played like 50 games.
Correct. Yeah, he can play. And can he stay healthy? Shout out to the guys at Happy Foot to Sad Foot, great podcast. And I highly recommend everyone watching it, whoever hasn't, because it seems like everyone's watching it. You know what I'm saying? But they basically pointed out on my little profile I did of this guy that he's injured. He's been injured a lot lately. So let's see. Let's see if he's going to be kind of like the Erik Duenas, if you remember, role last year. We just come in, sort of close out games, right? And Chornier and it's kind of the Delgado sort of. I can't believe they're not going to be playing the most amount of minutes. So do you feel like he's not going to really start, right? He's probably going to come in to close out games.
We'll see, man. I mean, the other thing to think about on this, and it's, stepping back for a second, it's a good point that, this guy did play first division Spain, and, there's not even why isn't there a second division Spanish team like trying to go after him? That is a bit concerning, and maybe the injuries are worse than we would think, but it's kind of a wing and a prayer. But one of the problems now transitioning into this question is Igor Jesus played such a critical role for this team.
Exactly.
And there's no player like him on the roster behind him. So he basically just leaves a gaping hole in the roster, much like Andy Najar did back in 2020, because when we let Beta Shore go, he came in, we ended up letting Tristan Blackman go, who also played right back. He got injured, and we ended up having to throw Blessing in there because we had no other right back there, and so we kind of, it's kind of the same thing for a system that relies so heavily on a single pivot six to move the ball, to not have another single pivot six like in the background, especially with all the midfielders we have on the roster, to not grab another profile like that is a little bit, I mean, I got questions.
So the other questions I have is like, were there other options and we kind of defaulted to him versus others as far as the Brazilians that may have been interest or not. I kind of scouted the free agents. The fella from Club Tigres, Carioca, Rafael Carioca came to mind. I actually reached out to a bunch of them on Twitter. Some of them actually expressed their desire to play on Major League Soccer. A guy like Andre, which is a decent player and showed up in that free agent list. So, I was like, yo, is that you? And he's like, I wish it was me, but we ended up with someone that, again, it's been injured a lot, but comes with a ton of experience. And it's JT special that we always talk about on the show, Erik, which is we're going to sign these, guys to very short-term deals. We're not going to lock ourselves at all, which it kind of reinforces the idea of the lost season / we're punting it to the next year. I don't see why, you wouldn't go out there and get a quality 6, right? Or a quality 8 to build the midfield now, like Inter Miami just did. Like it's clear that we're waiting for something, right? And we know what that is.
Yeah. No, another name on that list was Gabriel Pires, who had a bit of, I think he was let go from a Greek team, but, experience at Fluminense, Botafogo, Benfica, he just looking
has had bad form recently. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
He has, but again, you're drawing from a free agent list, so no matter what, you're taking a chance on somebody because that's,
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's the saying, it's kind of the best of bad options, and that's kind of where we are.
And in JT's fashion, he's taking the least amount of risk with these moves. If it works out, great. We can offer you another deal, right? You're a free agent. You don't belong to anybody. So why not? And if it doesn't work out, you're just another part of our history guy that came in, put up some minutes, wore the shirt, and maybe opened up your career somewhere else. I can't disagree with the move, but at the same time, it tells you what the mindset is and where everybody is, which is a wait and see pattern.
Yeah, and I speculated this in the show. We've talked about how the salary cap works and how you have to roll over target allocation money year to year, and that it's very similar to the NFL. Like you can't make your push. You can't push for the top every season. Every team has like a window. Basically, every 3 years or so, you're going to have a window where you can push. And the other two, you kind of have to build up reserves of allocation money, which can roll over. So you can make that big spend, bring in those veterans, get some depth, and go, unless you are able to generate a lot of depth with your academy, which we haven't really got that yet. Hey, what's up, chat? Like people find us.
Yeah, it's blowing up. So I'm gonna,
I'm just announce this. So hey, what's up, Dodger Gus, man? That's my guy.
He's always here. He's a great supporter, and I love seeing him. And
one of the best bets I ever lost was the Dodger Gus, and the bet he wanted was a bottle of Hennessy, which I gave him at tailgate. So I'll never forget.
Classic. I saw some wild tailgate photos of some like heavy metal people just like banging their heads around. Like, so I mean, like, look, I'd have nothing against heavy metal, and that's your tribe, but I did not expect to see you at Christmas Late. So,
anyways, going back to Igor Jesus, like I said, at the end of the day, as far as the roster for this year, if you do it in a vacuum, it's a very low risk move. I mean, we'll see what the salary is on him for the year, but I can't imagine that he's going to be pulling over 500K. I think might be slightly under that, but and
who doesn't make 500K, Erik?
Who?
Take a guess. Just throw it out there. Throw a name.
Igor Jesus.
No.
600 something.
Ilya Sanchez. I don't believe Ilya makes. Ilya makes less than Olden Home, and I brought this up before. That guy's like dad's salary. It's like you talk about being economical in MLS.
He made more than that when he played for us.
Okay, but like if he walked to go make less, we could be using his services and his leadership now. And I feel like that's been part of the problem with the formula.
This is true, but we did see him kind of fall off last season, and a guy like him, they have probably made him an offer or made his
Yeah,
agent an offer, and at the end of the day, they probably decided that they would test the
just
waters
the
of free
waters.
agency and see what came. And he's probably making more money now than the offer would have been, and he's probably gotten more minutes than he would have gotten here. He would have been sitting behind Igor Jesus all season.
100%. He would have been a bench guy and not coming in. And to be
He's and he,
honest,
there,
he's not
there he's the
playing
captain.
consistently there.
And
Yeah.
there he's the captain of the team. Well, he started
He
out as the
doesn't play all
captain.
the time because he's losing space there too. So it's worth saying that as much as I love Ilya and I wish he was part of the team, it's true that he's losing space. He lost space here and he's losing space there too. But I still think that vocal leader, a guy that could groom up Igor, and get paid 500 could be on our roster. We wouldn't have to be playing Russian roulette with Jailson of Brazil in what, September 1st, September 3rd, Eric.
Look,
There's not
this is
much time
true.
to do anything about the season.
This is true, but there comes a time to move on, and it's one of my favorite sayings is that players come and go, but the badge lives forever. And every seasons we're going to see new groups of guys, and we're going to see who gets that opportunity to shine.
Yeah.
Sometimes if you leave a guy for too long, you don't see what happens. If they would have kept Ilie, would they have signed Igor Jesus? Like
Yes, of course. That's true.
so. I,
It's
I
it's
think it
hard.
all.
It's hard to know.
Yeah, you don't know what you don't know, and so I think that's kind of all how it works out. And at the end of the day, Igor Jesus has been a great player. I think he's going to be a great player for us for a lot of years coming up. He's going to have to recover from his injury, but he'll be back mid next season, and we'll
How's
see
it go?
we'll see how it runs out. But
Yeah, we're,
in the
we're no
meantime,
doctors here, but man, he's
yeah,
gonna be out for a while.
look, and in the meantime, we've talked about this. We're going to be losing a lot of guys at the end of the season whose contracts are going to be running out. So I think we're going to see a pretty big rebuild. There's also the question mark who's going to be our coach coming up. And so, depending on who the coach is, they might like a little bit different personnel than Dolo does. Maybe the next coach likes to play with a 10. We haven't really seen much of that. But if that's the case, then it's like we kind of got to keep some of the powder dry for that. And if you play for a 10, a lot of times you're going to play with a double pivot. So we might need more guys with more of a 6 profile. So at the end, this could work out with Jailson. They come him in. He's signed at the end of the year with a team option. So if they don't like what he does by December, they can move on. No problem. If they do, they can extend him for another year, and they can even extend him for a second year after that. So there's I think with this right now, it's not a lot of risk in the signing, and there's a big potential reward, just like Marlon had with us, which
Yeah, I think right, high upside, very low risk, and that's very JT-esque, and I applaud for it. More times than not, it works, and it's sad not to see anybody from the academy being able to take on a role like that. You've always talked about promoting youth and allowing these guys to come in and pick up valuable minutes. And once Erik Duenas left, there's really hasn't been anybody in that position for us. I don't even know who plays 6 right now for LAFC too. It might be Olden home. So, and he clearly is not ready to come back. So yeah, long journey ahead for Igor, and I really hope it works out for Jailson. I read one comment here before we move on to just international call-ups on our 30-minute show today, which is a lot of people seeing negative comments about Jailson, especially from Brazilians. And I will let Erik address that one. What do you make of the negative comments from Brazilians about a player, in this case being Jailson?
all right. Here's a grain of salt to everybody unfamiliar with Brazilian
And
Twitter.
here's the comment.
Yeah, yeah. Brazilian soccer fans would criticize somebody helping somebody else's grandma across the street if they had the wrong soccer jersey on. So it is a very toxic Twitter, and so you got to take it with a huge grain of salt. Like wading into Brazilian soccer Twitter is something like you need to go with full body armor on. So I wouldn't
And
worry.
Instagram.
Oh no, it's
They
I
all
mean,
have it blocked. You can't tag them. You can do anything. It's awful.
oh, oh yeah, yeah, totally. I mean,
this dude has no social presence. I mean, I'm not bragging, believe it or not, but like if we have social presence that we can reach, they usually list their agent and their press guy. And between 3 or 4 of us that work with me, and these 3 contacts, we usually get some confirmation that something is happening, right? But in this case, this guy's a ghost. He does not exist online. He does not have an at. I could not find him anywhere. Again, so he probably has been ostracized enough by you, Porcos, and now he basically doesn't exist on the internet. Good job, Palmeiras fans. But look, we're happy that he's here. Erik, let's move on, man. Let's talk a little bit about international call-ups. There's quite a few names that are on at servicing their country for the greater good of soccer or football. And I'll let you start by talking about Denis Bouanga, and I'm sure you've heard that played today against the beautiful island, I believe, of Seychelles or country of Seychelles, and had an amazing game. So talk to me a little bit about Denis in this game for his country.
Yeah. It's a game I did not watch, and I do gotta look at Gio. And hey, we got some all-stars in the chat group because we didn't even announce this show at all, and they just kind of found us. So shout out to Seb, Lunch Special, Gio, Bin Fan. Hopefully I got that right. Of course, Dodger Gus, who we mentioned, but yeah, Gio made a comment earlier. Look what Bouanga can do with the competition.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Mm-hmm.
I can't speak to the Gabon national team coach to his competency at all, but I will say consider they're playing Seychelles, and I would imagine their soccer team probably is much better at beach soccer than they are at regular soccer. I mean, that's one of those like legendary vacation islands. I don't think there's a ton of people, so Bouanga's playing some farmers is basically what I'm trying to say, or playing some fishermen is what I'm trying to say with this one.
But can they beat DC United? And the answer is probably yes.
Yeah.
Seychelles 3, DC United 0, I think. I don't know. Just making an MLS joke here, but
Bouanga, I mean, man, he's been with the team for so long, and I still have trouble really breaking him down and analyzing, because on the one hand, Bouanga is a guy that's excellent on counterattacks, and that's really what Dolo wants is counterattacking play. But then the thing is when he gets to that final third, a lot of times he doesn't pick his head up to make the pass and goes for the goal. And he's a good enough scorer that it works out for him enough of the times, that he keeps putting it up. But we all know sometimes he's missed a lot of passes that would have been tap-ins, like over and over and over. And he gets he's a little selfish with the ball, and so
he goes for the dribble. He's very vertical. He puts his head down. Tries to do the dance, and now they double up on him, and now there's 4 legs for him to get through, and they usually get squeezed right between them, and it's kind of sad.
How much of that is Dolo, and how much of that is just Denny being a one-trick pony on that? Like, I'm not sure, but a lot of my criticisms for Dolo are really more focus around strategies, substitutions, and things like that. I think one thing I kind of brought up, I guess, in our chat group today is, with Denny so poor at passing, like, why isn't he in the 9? Because he's kind of there as a vertical threat. Just put him a little more centrally as well, and in the build-up, put him centrally, and that way, like, when the ball comes. Your guy sitting in the middle, you're not really looking for him to pass anyways, and that kind of would negate some of his bad traits. But then at the same time, I think it could be the same reason that Vela didn't like to play in the middle like the outside, is when you get the ball, you usually have a little more space to do something. When you're in the middle, you get the ball, and you're going to have somebody draped on you right away. And so it comes down to those quick little first touches. And so I think with that, when you get the ball like that, you don't really even have a chance to begin to dribble. And so he would lose some of his dribbling. So, I mean, just kind of thinking about this, that it is what it is.
Well, so 2 more things I want to talk about before we get out of here. First off is the match between El Salvador and Guatemala. That's important because Nate the Great has been once again called up for El Salvador, and those both teams are still on the on the hunt for a CONCACAF berth for the World Cup. It would be unbelievable to see Nate the Great just playing for El Salvador during the World Cup. So I'm all El Salvador right now. Go El Salvador. Beat Guatemala. And I really hope that this thing, works out for Nate, that he becomes like a major force to be reckoned with there in that squad. He's still very young, but I
Yeah,
yeah.
it's gonna be. I mean, it's gonna be tough. Like, if I mean, our guys on international duty are they gonna they're gonna miss the match, aren't they?
Yeah, there's two games, so I believe so. There's gonna be a mismatch, and that means Sonny might miss the next match for sure because he's with. Honestly, I don't want to say it because I don't know that. But we really have to kind of see where that goes. But look, man,
Yeah,
last
they
I
should be
just wanted to
good.
comment.
They
Yep.
should be good. The next match, it's the 13th. It's 10 days from now.
Yeah,
The
I
big
think they're
San
gonna be
Jose
clearing it.
Levi's
So
match, and I would be shocked if Sun's not going to be at that Levi's match because basically, like,
yeah, no,
it's
he'll be
instead
there
of
because
clear.
the second match is on the 8th, and he certainly will clear that date. So, for example, Nathan would be back, and I believe everyone will be back. And that should be good. Janier is with Canada, and they're playing a friendly. And then the last one, this is going to be a big game before we get out of here. The U.S. will play South Korea, and I do believe that's a very interesting matchup. So, any parting words about the USA taking on Sunny and South Korea, which should be kind of an electric match. And, it is a friendly, but it should draw a really, really good crowd and tell us few things about these two teams.
Um, One thing I would love to know, which I should have looked up, is Kim Moon Hwan gonna get? Is he gonna be on the national team?
I don't know, man.
I'd love to see him, but yeah, the national team is really the U.S. national team is a really hard one to watch lately. I think it's kind of a mess. I guess Pulisic should be playing, and the other European guys who skipped out the last tournament, I think they're going to be playing. So
Mm.
we'll see how that goes. But I'm not the biggest USMNT fan. They're my team that I cheer for, but mostly I just bleed black and gold, and I'm more worried about our guys missing a match than I'm worried about that team doing well or doing bad. I think Korea is probably a better organized team, better coached, and I could see them. I could see them winning this game. But yeah, at the end of the day, I just hope nobody gets hurt for these exhibitions.
Yeah, man, I'm ready for seeing some Sonny in another environment. Just continue the story of seeing him play, and I like to see Tristan, like you said, play some minutes there. I think he would be fun to watch.
Swaggy
Could be a
P.
good option for us. It would be another one that got away if that really happens. And for the most part, just kind of seeing what happens. And like I'm a U.S. men's national fan now. So if you're South Korean and you're watching this episode, I'm going to be on the other side of this. But I'm still going to be watching very carefully where Sonny plays, how he creates space with the national team. And compare that with some of the challenges that he's been having at LAFC so far. But is there anything else? Man, appreciate you doing this late and quick with me. But before we get out of here, parting words from you.
Um,
Jailson on anything else.
yeah. No, I mean, take Brazilian Twitter with a grain of salt. I think when Daverson scored their Libertadores winner, people were still like trashing him on Twitter after. It's like the dude just won Libertadores by that. So so it is what it is.
Champ.
And we're at this point, we're just survivors of Dolo Ball at this point. Like, it's obvious we just gonna have to watch this. To all the new LAFC fans who came over from Sun, welcome to Dolo Ball. Those of us who have been here for a while have been bitching about this for 2 years, and when you hear that this is it, and I think the same thing. Whoever gets stuck in a 9 position basically just has to get the ball with one or two guys on them and deal with it. And Sun's not really the type of player that thrives in that environment. Neither is Bawanga. Martinez maybe could deal with a bit better, but we're just going to have to suffer through Dola Ball to the end of the season, and I think we're going to have a big makeover on this team in the offseason, which, to be fair, generally every year we have about 4 or 5 new starters, and this has been going on for pretty much the last 7 years of LAFC.
Love it, baby. Appreciate you, Erik. And we'll see you. Don't think we're having one on Monday, given that we didn't have a game, but we'll be here as soon as we have one to break down. And we appreciate you guys. Continue to subscribe and watch our videos. The last 2 shows have been great. And I appreciate all of you that's been kind of following along here. We have the Twitter now broadcasting, and, of course, a lot of videos on YouTube. We'll see you soon.